Hello and welcome to the Nerdy Worry. Today we got a nice one for you. We got the entire series of What If to talk about today. We are doing a different format than we usually do before, where we would talk about individual episodes. This one, we're just going to be talking about the whole series as a whole because we just felt it would be much easier for us to just talk about it. And it's going to be quicker because we don't have to go on long draws about all kinds of stuff. So why don't we just get right on into it?
Oh yeah. What do you want to start with?
So I want to hear. So I, of course, have my opinions about each episode. I want you to just give
Mhm.
me an abridged opinion about each episode, and I'll give an abridged opinion about that same episode. So we can just
Okay.
like go in order and basically talk a little bit about each episode, and then like have a
Mhm.
whole like review of like the series.
Perfect. So, am I gonna start the first episode?
Yeah.
The Captain Carter.
The one that I think that you have a little bit of an opinion on.
Definitely more so. Okay. I think the first few episodes I had more of an opinion on than the last few. The
Mm,
last few got kind of weird, but
yeah.
the first ones sounded more plausible to me, at
Okay.
least. Like the Captain Carter one. That sounds plausible. If something happened, that I think that would be likely to happen. But then when we get to the next one, and we'll talk about the next one, but
Mm,
that one seems less plausible to me. And then I don't know. The first few seem more plausible.
mm,
Either way, the first one with Captain Carter,
yeah.
she was definitely a more dominant Captain America. Not Captain America, more dominant super soldier. In
Yeah.
the sense that if we look at how Steve Rogers was when he first got the serum,
Mhm.
he definitely wasn't as dominant in fighting or stopping a truck when it's driving into you
Right.
like he did. Um, and I think that might just be because she started out as a healthy human, and
Mhm.
Steve Rogers started out as a more frail, for lack of a better word, human. So he
Yeah.
maybe had to do some catch up and then get ahead, where she started ahead and then just got even farther ahead, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Actually, ahead is no, wait, I had it the right way. It's backwards. um, and what I thought was hilarious was that Captain or Steve Rogers becomes like the first Iron Man
Yeah.
kind of. And I thought that was so funny because he
Mhm.
still even says in it something about how he still hasn't been able to prove himself,
Mhm.
even though he has a suit and he's done all these things.
Right.
And then Captain Carter says it's not the suit, it's the man in the suit that
Mhm.
makes it. And it just that mentality also kind of plays in the normal MCU where Captain America, how he talks to Tony Stark in the first
Mhm.
Iron Man, right?
Right.
Because he's like, everything about you is just like the suit
Mhm.
kind of thing. And it's kind of funny. He applies that same mentality to himself in
Yeah.
that version. And I thought that was nice. There's also a lot weirder. Like Steve Rogers got frozen in ice, and that's
Mhm.
why he gets jumped to the future. But
Yeah.
hers was a lot weirder.
Yeah. She got pulled in by a tentacled creature from another dimension because of the space stone being activated, and she
Yeah.
got pulled in trying to save everybody and stuff, and then she got pulled back out in the events of the Avengers.
Mhm.
And now that's how her timeline basically worked.
Yeah, it was very weird.
Did you feel like it was like how did you feel, because I know Steve Rogers and Captain America are your favorite superheroes, so like
Mhm.
having this change, how did you feel about just like the change between him and Sharon Carter?
Mhm. So the reason why I like Steve Rogers so much isn't necessarily his super abilities or that he was a superhero or anything like that. I just think he's a great person. Like he's a good role model.
Mhm.
And he still was that same way. You know what I mean? Like he still had the same character, moral character in the sense, not
Mhm.
like the character. And so I didn't necessarily mind the change. I thought it was interesting to see how that turned out if it ended up being her.
Mhm.
I mean, I still like the way that it happened in the movie better. I mean,
Right.
how could I not, right? I mean, it
Mhm.
should be that way, right?
Yeah.
This so I liked the movie version better with Steve Rogers getting the super soldier serum. But I did like the episode. I don't have any negative feelings towards it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't mind that he didn't get it in there.
Mm.
What about you?
Yeah, so my abridged version was that I didn't really care for this episode. I felt like this was a nice episode, but it was kind of like, it didn't fulfill anything for me. It didn't make me feel anything. It was just a nice little story, a nice,
Yeah.
what if,
Mhm.
it wasn't
No,
big.
it's what if.
So yeah, I think like the first episode kind of was like, wasn't as good for me. Like I did like the story, I like the themes of it and everything else. It's just like the first episode just kind of was like dry for me. It wasn't that all fantastical. It seemed plausible, as you had said
Yeah.
earlier. It was like a very plausible what if story arc. So I didn't mind it. But it was just, it was a dry way to start the series, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it was one that's gonna hook you on
Mhm.
anything.
Yeah. What about episode two? Episode two, where T'Challa becomes Star Lord. That's where, in my opinion, is where everything picked up for the series.
It was a really interesting episode. That one I
Mhm.
think is highly implausible. Like definitely possible, but the the what if thing that happens is that Yondu outsources the work to find Peter Quill, and they end up just
Mhm.
grabbing some random human who
Right.
happens to be Black Panther,
Mhm.
T'Challa. So that one seems a little less plausible because they could only
Mhm.
find him for the brief 20 seconds that he ran outside of the force field or the dome that
Right.
hides them.
Mhm.
So it just seems a little less plausible than the first episode.
Mhm.
A lot more fantastical, which is a word you used. It was a great episode. It was a really good episode. Just that
Mhm.
part kind of is like, I guess it's possible, but well, I
Yeah.
guess technically in a land where infinite possibilities happen, it's gonna happen, right? Because that's
Right.
the whole thing. I don't know. What'd you think?
I thought it
Oh,
was
really quick,
interesting.
really
Okay.
quick.
Yeah.
I loved the opening part where it's the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's stealing the thing,
Power
and
Stone.
instead
Yeah.
of being like who to Star Lord, he
Oh
like
yeah.
fanboys over
Right. Yeah.
T'Challa as Star
And then
Lord.
he's like,
Like
"I want you to beat me up."
yeah, like Star Lord um, T'Challa Star Lord is all the rage apparently, and I loved that. That was hilarious.
Yeah. I thought it was very interesting that Star-Lord was actually the one who convinced Thanos to not obliterate half the universe. That was kind of the thing that just mind blew me. I was just like, what?
Yeah, I
And
know, right?
he convinced him, and he's like, well, I still think about doing it every now and then. It's like, but it's genocide, Thanos. You don't have to do it. And then like Nebula is fine. She actually looks like a regular person and stuff.
Yeah,
I thought that was very interesting how the context of having Star-Lord as being T'Challa versus Peter Quill is that the universe doesn't get snapped away half the way. But then you
yeah,
get like the Collector being the Mad Titan kind of voice in the universe, but
yeah,
then he gets defeated and stuff. So
yeah. It's funny to see how because T'Challa is a very honorable person,
yes,
and not saying Peter Quill isn't, but he's more of like
he's like the diplomatic type, and Star-Lord Peter Quill is more like, the fun kid-like person.
yeah,
Whereas T'Challa was more like, wondrous and, opportunistic of the opportunity of being able to see the universe and being
yeah,
like a moral guide kind of in the way that he was taught on Earth with his parents.
exactly. And it was really interesting to see how, given that situation, he benefited. He helped so many people.
Hmm.
I thought that was really really cool to see.
Yeah.
Kind of makes him like the ultimate guardian in a way. Because
Hmm.
Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm assuming, probably didn't become a thing. At least hadn't yet become a thing. And he seems to be like the ultimate guardian in a way.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
I thought that was a good one.
Yeah. Me too. So then we have episode 3, which was the Avengers get killed off one by one. What did you
Oh,
think of
that's
that
right.
one?
It was sad. That one was so sad. That wasn't the saddest one. The
No.
saddest one is the Doctor Strange one, which
Yeah.
we'll get to.
Yeah.
But that one was still sad because I was like, no, 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 no.
They're having Iron Man get killed, and then it was weird because like I didn't. It was a murder mystery because like I didn't understand how people were dying. Like it
Mhm.
made sense for like Tony Stark to die somehow, some way. We don't know how. But then it was weird to have the Hulk get exploded from the inside. And it's like, how
Yeah.
is he dead? You know, he doesn't die from pretty much anything, you
Yeah.
know? And then we find out that it's actually the original Ant-Man, Hank Pym, taking
Yeah.
revenge from Hope Van Dyne being killed.
Mhm.
That was the turning point of the entire episode was that Hope Van Dyne had died, and he was taking out the revenge on Nick Fury and Shield because we had seen in the beginning of Ant-Man, the movie,
Mhm.
that he didn't like Howard Stark. He didn't like Shield. He didn't like any of that stuff because he was being controlled by them. So this
Mhm.
kind of was like, the thing that set him off and basically killed off all the Avengers as a retaliation for that. And that led into having Loki invade Earth in a much easier path than he had when he had the Avengers movie.
Yeah. Now they still have Captain Marvel, and he was
Mhm.
getting Captain America at the
Yeah.
end of the movie. Nick Fury was.
Hmm.
So he still has a pretty good
Pretty
lineup
good
to fall
powers,
back.
yeah.
But still, it was very sad to see them not having the Avengers.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
stand or the one that we come to know.
Right.
That was well. Overall, though, did you think it was a good plot line?
Yeah, that was an interesting plot line. It seemed plausible to me that something like that were to happen.
Mm. Yeah.
Let's talk about episode 4 because I think episode 4 was my favorite episode of the entire series, which was the Doctor Strange one, in which
Okay.
was it his hands that got taken away? No, it was his love, his heart. It
Mm.
was an interesting thing because obviously I've seen Doctor Strange, and of course she doesn't ride with him to the events in Doctor Strange. She is
No.
taken somewhere else. But in this universe, she is taken in. Uh, to the car, and now she's the one who gets killed. And then he becomes Doctor Strange to kind of like fulfill the need that's he wants to basically get her back is the plot line. He wants to try and get
Yeah.
her back. And every time he does get her back, like she dies some other way. So he decides to do it another way, and then she dies. He does it another way, he dies. They don't even go to the event at all. She dies. They don't
Yeah.
even drive. They don't even go anywhere. She dies.
It's
It was
yeah.
was defined by the Ancient One as an absolute point in the
Mm.
timeline that he could not stray away from this one point because it had to bring him to become Doctor Strange. That's what was to happen. So he decides to go, you know what? Screw that. I'm gonna go and try and figure out a way myself. And
Yeah.
like he goes to like I forget what it was called, but it was this like mystic temple where he
It
was
was like a
to
library.
yeah, he was to absorb the knowledge of all these mystical beings from the past, basically,
Mhm.
to become what would be known as Doctor Strange Supreme, in which he will eliminate the absolute point, because that's the only way to eliminate an absolute point is become like this ultimate near godlike being, basically. And in
Yeah.
doing so, he destroys the universe that he's in. And even though he saves the love of his life, he destroys the universe and her with it, and now it's like in this isolated bubble, which was a really interesting thing for me. And of course I love Doctor Strange. He's one of my favorite MCU characters and one of my favorite
Mm.
Marvel characters. um, and I do like that the Watcher became a focal point in this one, because the Watcher actually talked to Doctor Strange
Mhm.
and was like saying like oh, I'm not going to help because, as you should know, I'm a Watcher. I don't intervene. I'm just here to observe. What did you think
Yeah.
about this episode as a whole?
It was interesting. Um, because at some point Doctor Strange becomes powerful enough to be cognizant of the Watcher, that
Hmm.
there's someone there, right?
Right.
And it's really interesting to see how he handled it. Like in the universe we know, I feel because he doesn't necessarily become a villain. He's still like a hero in a
Hmm.
way, but he makes like a really poor decision.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting to see more of the character and what he would do in certain situations. And it was also interesting to see how the ancient one, I couldn't think of her name, the ancient one split Doctor Strange into
Mhm.
two versions. The
Yep.
one that we follow for most of the episode, and then the other one who decides not to go back.
Mhm.
And then they have to have like they duke it out.
It's a pretty good fight.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Um
Well, of course,
and
Doctor Strange Supreme is going to win because he has more of the power. He just needs his other half, and he's basically complete.
did you think he was gonna win, or did you think the good Doctor Strange? I'm just gonna call him the good Doctor Strange. Was
Yeah,
gonna find a way.
I thought that the normal Doctor Strange was actually going to win, but
Mhm.
of course,
Yeah.
if you think about it, like Doctor Strange Supreme is more powerful than Doctor Strange normal, so it's like he
Yeah.
just wipes him out basically. But it's a really good fight, and it's kind of encouraging to see that because when we get Multiverse of Madness, we see like just how powerful Doctor Strange probably will be in like
Mhm.
later training because this was like early on in his training when he became Doctor Strange
Yeah.
in the setting of
Like 2
this
years, I
episode.
think.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
now we're gonna have like an advanced Doctor Strange who will have much more experience and stuff. So like it's gonna be helpful.
It'd be interesting to see. Yeah.
Mhm. So yeah, this was one of my favorite episodes. It was very sad because
It
it
was
ended on a
extremely
very
sad.
sad note because like he's alone now. He doesn't have Rachel. He's gone basically.
He's stuck in like a sphere,
Hmm.
like a very tiny spherical.
Disc
It,
ball, disco ball.
yeah, right. Yeah, disco ball,
Yeah,
plasma ball. No, but yeah, that one was so sad.
yeah. So now let's get to episode 5. This one was
That's a
the one that
zombie.
I was kind of like iffy on with you because like obviously it's a lot more gory. It's the zombies one. What did you think of the zombies one? Because I know you're not really much of the fan of like, the horror trope or like, blood and gore and stuff.
It was gross.
It's gross.
This is the first zombie related thing I've ever seen.
Oh,
Never
really?
seen
You
a
haven't
zombie
seen like
movie,
World War Z
zombie
or like
TV.
Walking Dead or anything?
Nope. This is the first zombie thing I've ever seen.
Oh well.
So, it's kind of gross. I thought it was interesting that in this timeline, Vision loses the stone. This time it's self-inflicted, though.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
Hmm.
Like, that seems like an absolute point. That's around this period, Vision loses the stone. I thought that was. Also, I also thought Vision did not. He acted different because technically this should be up into a certain point. This was the same Vision that we kind of the same Vision that we knew from the MCU.
Mhm.
Right? Up until the point of the What If Diverge.
Yeah.
But I felt like the MCU Vision wouldn't have abducted T'Challa and used him in that way.
You
Because
wouldn't have adopted anybody in this case to feed the zombie Scarlet Witch.
yeah, because he was worthy enough to lift the hammer. I don't think
And
he would
there's a
have done
little
that.
debate about that one. I don't think it was
Yeah.
worthiness as much as he had an immense amount of cosmic power.
Oh, okay, maybe. I don't know. It just didn't seem that part didn't seem as plausible to me.
It seemed
And
odd because he was acting on lust than he was on logic. And we always
Yeah.
know him to act logically about certain things. I mean, he was literally going to sacrifice himself in order to preserve half the universe from Thanos in Infinity War. And now
Yeah.
he's like, I want to make sure my wife gets fed. So here's all these hordes of beings that I'm going to give to her.
Yeah, it was weird.
I mean, it kind of makes sense because, like, if he doesn't do that, then she's gonna just unleash herself to the entire world and feed off of everybody,
I guess
So,
that's
like,
true.
maybe the sacrifice of the few will outweigh the many who may remain left. I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't like that it ended on the. I mean, all of them end in an unsatisfying way. I feel like,
Hmm.
except the episode 2.
Yeah.
That one kind of had like an end.
Mhm.
But the other ones, I don't think necessarily had, because there was more to be told. Like the
Mhm.
Captain Carter one. Now, what happens when she joins the Avengers and stuff?
Right.
So there's the continuation of it, but it kind of felt like the T'Challa one. That was like everyone lived happily ever after. That's what
Mhm.
it felt like.
But this one is like you get zombie Thanos in Wakanda. It's like, what?
Yeah, and you get Spider-Man, uh, kind of Ant-Man, and
Yeah.
who is it?
Oh, head.
T'Challa. Yeah, and T'Challa going to space. Like
Mhm.
I want,
They're
that's
not going to
what
space. They're
happens.
going to Wakanda.
Oh, I thought they were going to space.
No, they're going to
I thought they were going to the
Wakanda, and
moon.
that's why
Okay.
Thanos was in Wakanda, and that's where it's like the big cliffhanger. It's like they're going to Wakanda, and they have like I think one of the
Okay.
stones, right? But then that's the only stone that Thanos needs. So,
Okay. I
but
see.
now it's zombie Thanos. So,
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that one, it was weird. That one was definitely the most out there, I think.
yeah. What'd you think about zombie Captain America?
I didn't like the play on words that Bucky used about,
I'm
you
here
know,
with you until the end, and this is the end.
yeah, I didn't like that because that was like a whole emotional, like pungent line throughout the whole MCU. Like it carried a lot of gravitas, I feel like,
Mhm.
and then this kind of just like threw it, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it wasn't as resonant.
Yeah, I don't know. Like all that Steve Rogers did, and then he just like, okay, we're done.
We're done. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Cut in half.
I mean, there's nothing that he probably could have done, but still, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was weird.
Hmm.
Spider
Not
Man,
your favorite episode, I could tell.
not my favorite episode.
No.
The Spider Man didn't look like Tom Holland Spider Man.
Well, the thing is that it wasn't because since it's a Sony property, it's not technically able to be reproduced by Marvel Studios. So they actually changed the suit to make it look like the cartoon version that
Interesting.
Marvel made back in the day.
Yeah.
And it's also not the same voice actor as well. So
No.
yeah.
Interesting. Hmm.
So what did you think about episode 6, which was Tony Stark is saved by Killmonger?
That one was weird. Um, I don't know. I want to get your opinion on this one first.
I think it was interesting that, like, I thought maybe Killmonger was gonna be a good guy. I thought maybe because, like, he saved Tony Stark and Tony Stark kind of brought him in, he'd kind of,
Mhm.
you know, have the same kind of like, energy as Tony. Like, I want to try and save the world and not like make weapons and stuff. And they actually start making
Yeah.
the Iron Man suit, but it's actually for Killmonger's view of how he wants to handle it, kind of in the same way that he handled it in Black Panther
Mhm.
in a different way now that he has not just Wakanda. He'll have Tony Stark tech, and he'll use that as like a justification for war against the outside world with Wakanda and
Mhm.
stuff. Since he's Wakandan, he's going to convince them that they need to go to war with them, and then they will have to go to war with Wakanda. So it's this kind of
Yeah.
weird way of like trying to deal with the problems of the world by basically creating this false narrative war, which was kind
Yeah.
of odd. And of course, like obviously, it hurts me that he killed Tony Stark. Like,
Yeah. I mean, Black Panther and Tony Stark
yes,
and Rhodey.
hmm just
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't like. I didn't necessarily care for that part
Mhm.
either. Um, but I mean, it it fits in a way.
Mhm.
Like, the storyline makes sense. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that I like the storyline, but it makes sense.
Mhm.
And I like how they end up using the character later on
Yes.
because the way they ended it, because it was weird. Because at the beginning they mentioned sometimes you get a second chance, kind of like how Tony
Mhm.
Stark had a second chance in the
Right.
original Iron Man. So you kind of set up like a certain where you thought they were going with it, and then they
Mhm.
didn't. So
Yeah.
it was weird to see that they didn't go where you thought that they were setting it up to go.
Mhm.
And then you at the end you're like, oh, that's why.
Right.
So
Yeah. Not my favorite. It was kind of like similar to the first episode of What If. It was kind of like, dry, but I followed the story enough. It wasn't
no plot
fantastical.
twists or anything.
Yeah, good plot twists. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the
Which
next one?
So the next one is Party Thor. This one is just the worst one for me. I did not really care for this one at all because it's just so out of character and everything's just so outlandish. It's just
Oh my
didn't
god.
care for it.
It, it was hilarious. Like it wasn't like necessarily like the best episode or the best plot line or anything,
No.
but it was just funny.
Yeah.
Like the new version of Thor that I think they're gonna start trying to make movie like Thor Ragnarok, he was just a goofball, basically. This one was like goofball like to the max,
Yes.
right? And it was just yeah. Like at the end, the whole reason not to spoil it for people, but the whole reason though he was putting planets at risk by partying too hard. And the
Right.
way that they stopped him partying on Earth was to call his mom on him.
Yeah.
I thought that was fun. Also, the fact that Captain Marvel didn't just beat him out right away surprised me. I thought,
Right. And then she's like, well, there's nothing I can do. He's powerful.
yeah, I thought I like in the MCU, I had the impression that she could just like beat him
Take
in like
someone
10
out.
seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like Thor put up a much better fight in this than I thought he could have.
Yeah. And then
That
like
surprised me.
Darcy marrying like Howard the Duck.
He
Also,
showed up way too many times in this series, in my
yeah, he
opinion.
showed up a couple times.
I feel like once was like funny, maybe twice was funny, but I feel like it was overdone a
Yeah.
little bit,
I
right?
think Kevin Feige really likes Howard the Duck and he really wants him to be in the MCU somehow. I mean, he's already been in 3 live action versions
Yeah,
of the MCU and now he's in 2 episodes of What If. Like,
apparently.
hmm.
I don't know.
So this episode is an interesting one because there's no end credit scenes for any of these episodes except for the last one. But we
There's
get
an
a
end
kind of
credit
like
scene for the last one.
yeah, we'll get into that.
You didn't tell. I asked you if there was any end credit scenes. I didn't see
We'll
it.
get into it. I'll get into it.
Okay.
Um, but this episode had a nice twist at the end because like Watcher's like, and they lived happily ever after. Wait, what the? And then like there's a portal that
Ah,
comes out, and then you have Ultron come out, and it has Vision with the Mind Stone in there basically, and it sets up for the next 2 episodes of What If. And you're
yeah,
kind of curious. Which, by the way, that is a weird inconsistency with how the episode worked in the next episode versus how this one at the end worked, because we don't see that event happen. We only see it happen like we never see it again. Like Ultron never goes into Thor's universe in the 2 episodes afterwards. But it's kind of like trying to set up for the next 2 episodes, which is kind of weird for me. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
But let's talk about the 8th episode, which was what if Ultron won?
Are we should talk about the last two just as like a joint one.
You want to?
I feel like that'd make more sense. It's kind of just one storyline,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Jump between the two. Okay, your opinion first.
Well, I was glad that they did not allow Ultron to win because I was going to be super pissed if they let Ultron win at the end and he becomes like the villain of the MCU, the next big baddie. Like I was going to be so mad.
Oh, you thought that it was going to set up for like I see.
For the MCU, yeah, because it's like he's so powerful. He knows of the multiverse and he can creep into our universe, obviously, if he knows about the multiverse. So it's like, how could he not get into ours and be like this, tour de force of every other universe? Why not just get into ours? I was gonna be super mad. Like, we have already done away with the Infinity Stones. Why do we have to go to some other thing that involved Infinity Stones? Like, cut it off. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I thought the way that they ended it was clever.
I liked the ending. So the ending is where you had so they got rid of the Infinity Stones, but then Killmonger decides to take them for himself so that way he can fulfill his plan again. And then
like a grander version of it.
Yeah. So then Artem Zola comes up and he's like, no, these are mine. These are my Infinity Stones. And they kind of like go back and forth. And then Doctor Strange is like, wait, we don't have to defeat or destroy the stones. We have to just separate the stones. So he creates the pocket universe that he's basically kind of in. Where these two are basically trying to fight for the stones.
I think they're frozen in time, right?
Yeah, I don't know if they're frozen. I'm not sure. I think they're just in an isolated pocket universe that they're just going to infinitely like go back and forth between each other. And like he now has to keep watch of this little universe that way it doesn't like break free. Basically, that's his job now as Doctor Strange Supreme because he has nothing else to do.
Yeah, he's like the Watcher
Yeah,
on a miniature level.
yeah. How'd you feel about the Watcher's like level of power? Because he seemed like
Oh,
a
like
very
fight.
powerful being. It was very much in comparison to Ultron with the Infinity Stones.
Um, I think most of his power comes from his intellect,
Mm.
and not necessarily his physical prowess.
Hmm.
So, um, I don't know. I thought he would have done better though
Yeah,
in the
since he's basically a
altercation.
god.
Yeah, in the altercation, which is why I'm saying most of his power is probably from his intellect because he can keep track of all the different stories and
Hmm.
everything, right?
Right.
So I think that's probably why.
Hmm.
What do you think?
I thought the same thing. It's kind of like, he's just like the observer of the multiverse. And of course, he has the multiversal power to go between universes, which is something that like Ultron was able to achieve a consciousness to observe that the multiverse existed.
Like Doctor
So, like,
Strange?
yeah. So basically, that's the kind of thing that, like, transcends between normal individuals or beings and like the godlike beings. That's like that little defining line between the two, basically.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think that's just how it generated. And I think like him trying to intervene, but like, kind of like, you almost got it, Hawkeye, let's go. You got the files right there. Don't give up. It's like, dude, just interfere for God's sake. Don't be so, smitten with your oath. So I'm
Yeah,
glad that by the last episode you get to see that he breaks his oath, which is like very good. You
which is
understand this assignment.
where Doctor Strange is like he wants to hear him say it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
need you to help me interfere.
yeah, I I did think at the ending that they were gonna bring Captain Carter back to what was it, 1947 or something like that,
Mhm.
1943. I thought they were gonna allow her to go back. I thought
Yeah.
that this was gonna be her way of getting back to Steve Rogers, but
Mhm.
they didn't.
No. They did bring Black Widow from this universe in which Ultron had won because she's going to be all by herself. Where's she going to go? Like, she's going to live her miserable life in a barren Earth with no people in it? No.
Yeah,
Watcher at least has a heart of some kind and is able to bring her to the events of episode 3, where all the Avengers are killed, including Black Widow. So that way she can fight the Avengers to help them defeat Loki, basically.
yeah. So yeah, she goes to one where the Avengers need a Black Widow,
Hmm.
and she
Yeah.
helps out. I thought that was a nice way to end.
Yeah, a nice conclusion, I think. It needed to have a conclusion. If it didn't have a conclusion, I'd be mad because it's like, okay, we're transcending between this and now another thing. We're complicating, we're muddying the waters too much. I think like having a conclusion for what if really helps,
I agree. It, wa- it wasn't the best series, I don't think, in my
No.
opinion. I mean, my favorite episode was still the Captain America one because I thought it was really interesting just to see how that played out.
Mhm.
Excuse me, but I don't know. It wasn't necessarily. I had a hard time getting through the episode, like all 9 of them. Like I waited till they were all out to start watching them, basically.
Yeah.
And the reason why we didn't review this last week, which was the week it came out, was because I didn't finish them because I had a hard time
Just
watching more
slogging
than a
through it.
couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though they weren't that long. Like I have no problem if you said by Monday, Bill, you have to watch the entire Infinity Saga. I think I could do it. It'd
Okay.
be difficult. Well, actually, I don't actually know if there's enough physical time.
I don't think it's enough physical time.
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
think so.
If you give me an equivalent amount of time of Marvel movies to watch, as long as What If was
Mhm.
like the whole series, I think I could watch all that in like a day or two. Like I wouldn't mind sitting watching Marvel all day if it was an
Mhm.
MCU movie, but I don't think I could do that with the What If series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the end credit scene, which I'm surprised you didn't look, and you didn't ask me. I know you
I asked
didn't
you
ask me about it.
when I first started it. I said there's no post credit scenes, right? And you said yeah.
Well, when you started it, but I don't even think that the last episode came out yet
I think it came out.
when
I
you
think
asked me.
I think it came out that day.
Yeah, I think so. So obviously, like, I didn't know.
Oh,
So I didn't know if you were going to look yourself. So
no. So what was it?
so basically, it
Let
was
me in.
in the universe where Captain Carter goes back and she's on the boats with Black Widow. Uh, she Black Widow tells Captain Carter there's something else on this ship that she has to be aware of, and on this ship is the big iron suit with Steve Rogers still alive in the suit that's been encased in ice, basically. So now she's able to see Steve Rogers and be able to have him back in this timeline.
Gosh darn! I wish I saw that. Are
You
you
can
joking,
go
or is
back
that
to
the
the episode, and
is
now
that
you
the
can
actual
read.
ending?
That's the ending. So that's after the animated credits. It's not after like the credits. This is after the animated credits.
Gosh darn! I love that.
It is a good ending. She
That's
has
funny. They ended the Infinity Saga. They basically ended the Infinity Saga because I think
hmm,
The next Spider-Man movie counts, right?
yeah,
Like the
the
wrap
Far
up.
From Home counts as the
Yeah.
part of the Infinity Saga.
So neglecting that one, if you just
Yeah.
brush that one to the side,
Mhm.
the way that the Infinity Saga ends in Endgame is with Steve Rogers going back and dancing with Peggy.
Right.
That's how it ends. Like Peggy and Steve dancing together.
Hmm.
Like they're back. And it's funny that they end the What If series with them being back. That
Yeah.
kind of, right?
At least for this season. At least for this season, because there's gonna be another season coming out. So for at least this season,
Yeah.
that's how it ends.
It'll be interesting because it's gonna be like he's the first Iron Man in a way, and but now there's probably an actual Iron Man, and it's gonna be interesting.
It is interesting. So maybe
So
there's gonna be a continuation. We don't know.
I don't know. We'll see.
We will see. So how do you rate this series as a whole, Billy? Like out of a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being absolute dog crap, 10 being end game level. Where do you put this series?
Probably the lowest thing I've rated so far.
I don't know what that is.
No, I know. I think the lowest thing I've rated is like a 7.5, and I think that was like Thor 2.
Okay.
I'd probably say like a 6.5.
Wow. Okay. I was gonna
Yeah,
give it like a 7.
a 7. Oh wow, I'm being more strict than
Yeah,
you.
we're pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the best series. Loki's still the best series, but I think
Yes.
that this was a nice little fun little show to watch, in the interim between Black Widow and Shang-Chi.
I agree. It's weird that it's canon.
I know.
So
It is weird.
I don't know if they're just saying it's canon, but it's
No,
not
it
gonna.
is canon.
No. I mean, like, I know they're gonna say it's like canon, but is it gonna play a role in the MCU, or is it just canon, but it's gonna be its own side thing?
I think it's gonna
You know?
be its own side thing.
Yeah.
Because
I
it
don't
has
know.
to be involved with like the multiverse collapsing from the events of Loki.
Yeah.
So that's why the What If series happens.
Yeah. The Watcher must have been really bored before when it was just one
I'm just
timeline.
watching all these universes and now they're connected.
Well, I mean, like before it was just the one timeline. He
Right.
didn't have any variety. It was just the one
Now he
thing.
has some spiciness to it.
Exactly. Some zest. What I thought, do you think he knows about the TVA? The Watcher?
Yes. Yeah.
But like it's outside of time. It's weird. Because also if you needed Infinity Stones to stop working, apparently just take them to the TVA.
Yeah.
But I feel like that never I don't know. It was
Well, I
weird.
mean, the TVA kind of like is loosey goosey now because now the TVA seems to work in other timelines, as we have seen at the end of Loki. Like
But does that mean
TVA moved and
but does
shifted.
that mean Infinity Stones still work? I don't know.
That is a good question because I think what we attributed to having as the Infinity Stones not working in other universes, I think is a thing that we took from comics, but we attributed to the MCU. But it seems like in What If, that's not the case because obviously Ultron was able to use the Infinity Stones in other universes. So I think that's something that we just thought was canon, but now it's not. But I think the Infinity Stones really don't work in the TVA because it's a
It's
different
different.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I would have liked Vision to somehow come back.
Hmm.
I don't know. Or like wait Vision to show up some at some point.
That'll be later.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Either way.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed our little review. I hope you enjoy this format where we just condense the entire series into one. If you like that, please let us know down below by hitting that like button. Hit the subscription button while you're over there as well, if you haven't subscribed already. And subscribe to our Instagram, which is also in our description down below. And until
Click
next
that button.
time, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.